I started playing around with ideas. And my first idea was to do a personal web-based database where you could store any kind of information on the web and retrieve it. Decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur because my only motivation was if they can do it, I can do it too. That's what happens in the technology space. It is a winner take all. There is no room for copycats. If we unleash the critical thinking ability in a country like India of 1+ billion people, my God, India will rule the world in technology.
Sabir, welcome to Bangalore. Welcome to TGS 2024. Our audience doesn't need any introduction. I think everybody knows who you are around the world. A particular privilege for me because we are both originally from Bangalore. We both now live in the Silicon Valley. But again, give it up, a nice round of applause to our Bangalore boy, Sabir Bhatia, who put Bangalore and India on the map very, very early on, right? In the late 1990s itself, when tech entrepreneurs from India were a pretty rare animal at that point in time. So Sabir, let's start with your early life here in Bangalore. Tell us a little bit more about where you schooled and your early experience.
Great. First of all, thank you so much for the kind words and this wonderful introduction over here. I came to Bangalore in 1980 from Pune actually. And I started my schooling at St. Joseph's Boys High School. And I almost actually never went to St. Joseph's Boys High School because in those days I was a little late for admission. And my dad had already got me admission at a school called Clarence High School. And, but everyone around was saying that St. Joseph's was the place to be. But admissions were closed, everything was done. And my dad said, let's give it a try. Just come with me and let's go to St. Joseph's. And we go over there and the principal, Father Shenoy, says, admissions are closed. Why are you over here? Then he calls me in. He says, is this your son? Okay, you stay outside. And he asks me a few questions and, asked me to do some math problems and this and that. And apparently he took a liking for me. He calls my dad in and tells him, from now on, Sabir is not only your son, he's my son too. Go pay the fees, and he's admitted. So that was how I came to Bangalore. I finished St. Joseph's Boys High School here. I went to St. Joseph's College. And then I went to BITS Pilani, where I spent 2 years. And then I transferred to Caltech from there. And from Caltech, I went to Stanford. And after that, I started my career at Apple Computer and worked for another small startup called Firepower Systems. And then after that, started Hotmail. And the rest, all of you know the story already.
Yeah, actually, while we do know the story, we'd like a few anecdotes about Hotmail as well. So, well, I guess there are a couple of lessons. One is even with the St. Joseph's admission, it's perseverance, right? You don't give up just because, the date is closed. That's also a sign of an early entrepreneur. You just don't give up. You try, right? So whether it was dad or whatever, and these are the values we learn. When did you first start thinking like an entrepreneur? I mean, was it only at Hotmail or were you thinking entrepreneurial all along? Tell us a little bit about that.
Wonderful question. I actually went to Caltech to study electrical engineering, and I wanted to do my master's and PhD at Caltech. Luckily, my academic advisor told me to go and get a different education, so I came to Stanford. And at Stanford, I took a course called Business for Electrical Engineers. And during this course, we got to we were exposed to entrepreneurs in the Valley who had started companies like Scott McNeely, Vinod Khosla, Fred Gibbons, and all of them came and told us their stories of how they started their companies. That inspired me. So I, in fact, quit doing a PhD at Stanford. I got a master's, and I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur because my only motivation was if they can do it, I can do it too. And, that inspired me, and the rest is, history. But that was my inspiration to becoming an entrepreneur.
So, what made you even think of Hotmail, as a web-based email, right? Prior to that, we used to have servers with emails and all that. How did you even think of it? I mean, now everybody uses a Gmail, and we've all used to web mail, and we take it for granted. Back then, it was pretty, unique, right? So, how did that spark come in your head?
So those were the early days of the web. And in the early days, I knew instinctively that the web was going to be big one day, like massive. I started playing around with ideas. And my first idea was to do a personal web-based database where you could store any kind of information on the web and retrieve it. Much like FileMaker Pro in the early days of Apple Computer. So I wrote a business plan for it, and we started developing that product with my partner, Jack Smith. And the company where we were working put a firewall around our corporate intranet. So we couldn't access our personal email accounts. I had a personal email account at stanford.edu, and he had a personal account at AOL. That's when it occurred to us, what if we made email available on the web? That would solve our problem. And then the next question was, okay, what does it cost? It didn't cost that much. Yahoo was, early in those days, was growing rapidly. It had gotten some funding, and it was going to be an advertising-driven platform. That's what inspired me to both of us actually, to just give it away for free and put email on the web, and that was the genesis of Hotmail.
Now, fast forwarding to the exit with Microsoft, you were all of probably, 28, 29 years old, right? And unlike now, I think, a kid from India, a kid from Bangalore, having gone and even started a company was pretty unique, right? I mean, back, it was still pretty rare. What gave you the confidence, and I mean, how did you even negotiate the kind of exit you did, right? I mean, I know you're a likable guy. Father Shenoy found that early on and gave you admission. But how did Bill Gates end up giving you $400 million for the business? So is there a little bit of a story you can share about that?
Yeah, so the first offer was $140 million, and they gave it to us in a conference room with 12 Microsoft negotiators on one side, and there were 3 of us from Hotmail, my partner Jack Smith, Steve Dowdy, and myself on the other side. And I was told, do not accept anything, don't counter it, don't show any facial movements, nothing. Just take the offer and come back. So Greg Maffei, when he gave us the offer, I just took it and said, thank you very much, very nice to know you. We will consider it, I'll take it back to the board. And he wanted to get a reaction. I didn't want to get into a negotiation at that point in time. So I took the deal, basically went back, shared it with the board and said, what do you think I should counteroffer? And some people said, I think we can go up to 250. That was, Doug Carlyle, who was on the board, went up to 250. He was already happy with 140, I could see. I mean, he had made an investment just a few months earlier, right? And he's looking at saying, I can 20x my return. I mean, this is great. Just do it. And then there was Tim Draper, who's like, don't accept anything less than 2 billion. I'm like, Tim, how can I go back and ask for 2 billion?
That sounds like Tim, though.
I'm like, it's just not conceivable. So I, came up with a number, and I thought, let me go higher end, So I was kind of saying, I want to make $1 billion company, but then I'll have to go through dilution in the future, IPO process, fees to all the people, underwriters. So I'd go with 750. Around that, of course. A company with 0 revenue, 750 million, and my bank balance was $5,000. But it was just a number. So I went and gave that number out to Greg Maffei. He blew his top off. He's like, this is insane. Are you mad? 750 million for a company which has 0 revenues and nothing? I'm like, but look at the future potential. And we started, comparing each subscriber to a cable subscriber. Who cares? Internet, cable, one and the same thing. Actually, instinctively, that was the right one to do. So we went back and forth, and at one point they came back with 350, and I turned that down. And my parents went bananas, they went crazy. You turned down 350 million, what's wrong with you? But then a week later, Greg Maffei came back with 450 and we kind of agreed to split it halfway.
Now
Meet halfway.
That 1 week between the 350 and when you finally closed at 400, you must have been sweating bullets, right? Because what if they hadn't come back?
Exactly. Everyone in my company deserted me. All the employees, not the board members, but the employees, my partner, my parents. They're like, what's wrong with you? You know how much money that is? I can't even put it on a calculator in rupees in those days. But I had some, so I would, stared at the ceiling of my small, tiny apartment in San Francisco. I wondered if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. And luckily, a week later, Greg Maffei called, and it was just him and me. No lawyers, nothing. Picked up the phone, and he says, you know what, 450 that you're asking for is a little rich. How about we meet halfway? Done. Right now, done. Let's do it.
No, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. But now, again, we have lots of young people in the audience, thousands of them watching online as well. Was that the ignorance of youth? Sort of the brashness saying that, hey, 350 million, I'm going to turn it down. And I'm just curious, now that you're older and wiser, if you had to do that negotiation all over again, would you have the courage to walk away from 350 and say, nope?
Absolutely, 100%. And this is called the gut instinct of an entrepreneur. And I'll tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a secret. I'm working on a technology which I know the moment we come out with, in a matter of a few months, people will offer us billions of dollars. And I'm going to walk away because I think the potential of that technology is to reach the trillions. You know it. It's in your gut. Because you think, how big can this market be? There was no stopping the growth of Hotmail. It was on a phenomenal growth curve. And even if Microsoft had decided to do this on their own and started a year or two later, we would have already had a 10 million, 20 million user lead. That's what happens in the technology space. It is a winner take all. There is no room for copycats in the train of technology, or the bullet train of technology, I should say. You have to identify through technology a particular niche of some product, something that will change everything. And once you start scaling, if you have started proving the first signs of growth, just imagine the rest. It'll be winner take all.
So Sabir, what you're referring to are, innovative ideas, and I think that's sort of, the name of our panel as well, the theme. Is there room for that kind of innovation still? I mean, like there are so many ideas which have already sort of been developed.
Absolutely. But these kind of ideas come once in a decade, maybe once in 20 years. And they are a combination of where technology is. For example, right now in the last 4 or 5 years, AI is the buzzword. But I think people are looking at the wrong space in AI. AGI will not come from large language models, in my humble opinion. AGI will come from some other technology that is waiting to happen, that will be a combination of sensors, inputs, human imagination, not in the field of language or drawing or artistic, but that will revolutionize how we interact with data. And so, when you say, is there room for such ideas? Absolutely. Technology is never constant. But that those leapfrog ideas are not run-of-the-mill. They are never copycat. They are original. They come from original thought. And that's what I think is the excitement of technology, that we have to, and that comes from critical thinking, by the way. You just imagine things. You get in touch with your, deep subconscious self. And you dream about a future that doesn't even exist, that nobody has seen. And at some point, the network just clicks, the buttons just click, and everything just makes sense. And in fact, how do you teach this way of thinking? I have one of my companies that I'm working on is a company called Showreel, which if you download the app, it just teaches you how to think critically. It tests those portions of your brain that force you to think, for which there is no right answer. It has to be your own answer, your own original answer. And everybody's answer is different. The question is the same, but every individual's answer is different. That is called critical thinking. If we unleash the critical thinking ability in a country like India of 1+ billion people, my God, India will rule the world in technology. Every future technology will come from here. But we have to unleash that way of thinking. And it is not formal education, it's not rote learning, it's not regurgitation, it's not repetition, it's original thought. I'll just stop there.
So Sabir, one sort of trend is lots of young people are starting to become entrepreneurs, either straight out of college or sometimes even during, or like trying to sort of drop out and do stuff. Can this kind of innovation or sort of critical thinking
think inside of the box? What is real world experience? Processes, working in companies, groupthink, meetings, consensus, lack of decision making. That's not where breakthrough ideas come. The two are completely separate. We need, and especially in this day and age of AI, where so many of the mundane tasks can be done by AI. Writing a proposal, AI can do it. Writing a letter, AI can do it. Making an introductory meeting to somebody, AI will do it. Easy, that's simple. What is critical thinking? It comes out of the deep depths of human imagination. You think when you're working at a company you can imagine stuff? No way. You have to be a dreamer. You have to go spend time with plants and trees and go running and bicycling, and this idea comes from like your gut. And like I said, not everyone has it. It's not groupthink, but when you get it, the few founders see a vision. It's truly visionary. We misuse the word vision over here a lot. It's not a dream, just a dream that I'll become rich. That's not a vision. The dream is, oh my God, this will solve this problem in the world. And let's go do it. For example, why is NVIDIA the most valuable company in the world today? It's because their chips are most suited to doing matrix multiplication, which is at the core of AI and of large language models. If downstream people are spending billions of dollars building large language models, that means that these chips will be in big demand. And so he's productizing it, making big clusters of it, making them more efficient. But it is focused on one core thing, matrix multiplication, which by the way is very similar to polygon pushing, which is the origin of NVIDIA. That's how NVIDIA from a graphics company has become an AI company. Where do these simple ideas come from? Critical thinking. Not because you work 9 to 5 and you do things. It comes out of human imagination.
Got it. No, that's very, very valuable. So we just have about 5 minutes left. And I'd like you to share probably 2 or 3, I think, game-changing ideas with our audience. So there are so many, young entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs who are watching. Can you share some thoughts on where you think the next big thing is or the next big things are?
Yeah, I mean, they're all over the place. I don't know. I cannot predict which one will win. First thing is we, especially in India, have to change our thinking. A lot of us are taught, including myself, taught to win. Success. make money. For a moment, take that out of the equation and say, I will play to give it my best. And I love it so much that my best is I will spend 100 plus hours a week. Not because I'm forced to, because I love to do this. I had a vision for Hotmail. During the Hotmail days, I used to go into work 7 days a week. Drive from my apartment in San Francisco all the way down to Oakmead Parkway in Sunnyvale 7 days a week. And I loved it. And I would come back home at 10 o'clock in the night. I knew I was doing something that the physical burden on my, self didn't even matter. It didn't even occur to me I'm working hard. I'm just loving what I do. So where will these come from? Well, I think I'm working on one of them, which is a new human-machine interface, which will change the way we access data at almost 100 times the rate that we are accessing data today. If my instincts are correct, this is the next trillion-dollar company. If my instincts are correct. And I'll just give it my best. I don't care if it succeeds or not.
Yeah, no, in fact, those of you who were in the audience yesterday and heard the tennis great Andre Agassi said, I think somebody asked him, the question was, how do you deal with losses and wins, right? I mean, someday you lose a match, the next day, how do you get up and go try to win a match? And I think he shared that every day you just focus on getting a little better and better. So that's all he thinks about. But you're right, I think it's just great. Now, I want to close by asking you something which very few people have experienced. And that is, very early in your life, you reached the pinnacle of success, at least the classical definition of it, right? You were personally worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the late 90s, which was probably, in the billions right now in terms of value. And you were not even 30. And so you had riches, you had fame, you had private jets, you had your yacht, you had all the Lamborghinis and Ferraris, anything you could possibly want. Can you sort of, on a philosophical note, tell us, is that what happiness is about? Is that what makes us happy? Is that what we should pursue?
Absolutely not. It is truly in the Hindu spirit or Indian spirit of Maya, just that. Meaningless. You can be like in San Francisco, have the finest Ferrari, this, that. So what? Unlike over here where you get a lot of adulation and this and that, you're just another rich kid driving around a fancy car. It didn't bring me happiness at all. True happiness comes from, I think, human relationships. One day we're all going to leave this planet. What do we take with us? Every human interaction we've had while we are here. Every single one of them. It's the experience that is more important than the outcome. And since my success, I have been searching for experiences. I instinctively don't worry about, maybe it's the fearlessness in me, I don't worry about success or not, outcome or not. Every experience, every interaction has to be one where I learn something or I teach someone something. If you look at life that way, my God, every day is a new beginning, a new set of experiences, and a new day that will enlighten you at the end of the day.
So referring to the U2 song, which says, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, in your case, Sabir, have you found happiness?
I think I have found happiness, and I continue to pursue it. I'm just having fun every single day. Genuinely, every single day of my life, I wake up and I'm like, God, thank you for giving me another day. I'll try to make the most of it.
Do you want to share some of the mantras in the last few seconds we have for happiness? I mean, it could be good health, it could be people and, like relationships.
I think the greatest mantra that you can tell yourself is, and anybody you meet, subconsciously think, you are everything and I am nothing. And you will learn so much unbelievable from every human being.
Amazing. So you basically have to have the humility to say that there are things you can learn from everybody.
That's right.
Which may have been hard for you in the early days, right? Because people are like kind of, public adulation, everybody's looking up to you. So you must have had to overcome that ego and all of that, right?
It was. For 10 years I had an ego. I was a rich, spoiled kid. I mean, I wasn't spoiled by my parents, self-spoiled, from 29 to 39. After that, life just changed. Something happened inside. And I learned that the most powerful force on planet Earth is human humility. That's why I say, every person you meet, subconsciously think, they are the bigger person, you are the smaller person, and I'll tell you, you will learn from every human interaction.
Fantastic advice, Sabir. With that, we'll have to wrap. We're out of time. But it's been a privilege, absolute joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.